Can you hear me? All right. So good morning, everybody. How many of you are back from the last time? Boy, you're a glutton for punishment, aren't you? No, I thank you for coming back. What we're going to talk about today a little bit is a little bit of some of the slides will be, repetition from the little bit that we talked about the last time we were here. But I also want to show you a lot of different things, and anybody that wants to participate can come and cut and put things together. That way, it's a lot of people are visual and hands-on. I mean, I can show you in a picture, but until you actually get your hands on the equipment, realize it. I mean, my wife is like that. I tell her, look, this is what I'm going to do. I've done a lot of landscape jobs, landscape construction, and I can show her a drawing, and she's like, okay. I'm like, but it's going to look beautiful. And she's like, okay. Until we finish it, then I drive her by, and she's like, this turned into that? How? So she's really visual. So it's important that sometimes, I can tell you, yeah, this is the way you want to do it, but until you get up here and actually thread things and put things into the pipe and stuff like that, it won't, it'll make it even better. So also the other part of this is water capture. And water capture is so important nowadays because if there's one thing that landscape has and has had for many, many years is runoff. Unfortunately, you see it, but you see it more in the commercial landscapes when you're driving down, commercial centers and the whole parking lot is being watered. When there's a little tree, there's water running everywhere. That's one of the biggest things in California. We want to stop the runoff. So in residential and new commercial landscapes, it's water capture. We want to keep the water, anything that is going to run off, even rainwater, to stay within the property and saturate the ground, go back into the groundwater table instead of running down the street and picking up all of that pollution and that kind of stuff. So we'll talk a little bit here what water in nature is, as everybody knows. Where did I just do? Oh, here we go. Okay. Same water. I told you this last time. There is no more water than there was before. It just changes on where it goes. Okay. Unfortunately, and I was just reading the other day. I'm not a weather person, but I like to read, and I'm reading about weather, and they're already predicting 75% of La Nina for this year. I mean, it's going to rain north of us, and it's going to rain south of us, but right in the middle, we're not going to get anything, or maybe what we call a storm, a quarter of an inch. Okay, and we cheer when we get that quarter of an inch because we call that a big storm. Okay, but that's what the predictions are right now. I hope they're wrong, and I hope that we do get rain here, but unfortunately, more than likely, it looks like another really dry year. Remember, water comes from the sky, rain clouds, it precipitates, it rains, and then it evaporates again and goes back up. So it's just one big cycle, and we have water, we just need to use it correctly and wisely. Okay? The watershed, you guys, all of you that live here are blessed. You live in a great watershed, okay, where most of your water is local water, which is probably the best water that you can have. Okay, and it's anything we have to import, okay, we have to, of course, it's more expensive. We have to do more treatment to it because it comes from a long ways. Does anybody remember how far it comes from Northern California? Were you all here last time? Yeah. This is a test. Yeah. Any of the younger generation that remembers? Yeah. Okay, so it takes about, okay, and I'll tell you the answer in a little bit. But remember, as the population increases, I know everybody's saying everybody's leaving California, okay? But I live down in Menifee, and ain't nobody leaving there. They're coming. There's so many homes being built, and before they finish them, they're already sold. I mean, and it's not somebody in Menifee already, moving across the street or down, across town. It's new people coming in. So as population increases, okay, demand for water increases. Okay, so we have to, figure out, okay, how much water can we have? Like I said, you all have a lot of, groundwater and local water, which helps so much. You don't have to depend on what's happening so much up there, but remember, it doesn't rain. We haven't had rain. When was the last rain? We already forgot. Yeah, a couple of drops. Now, I think last week or a week and a half ago, I'm sitting in my house, and it poured for about 30 minutes, and then it stopped. That was a good watering for the plants, but that's all it did. It didn't do. That would be great. We'll take it at this point. We'll take anything. But understand, as the population increases, demand for water increases. Okay, and then we go spend a lot of money to buy bottled water, right? Did I give you a challenge on bottled water? How many of you go to the store and buy bottled water? Okay, how many of you go and buy in that big machine, and you take your own container? And you pay, I think now it's 50 cents a gallon. Okay, you know where that water comes from? West Valley Water District. They just put it through the machine and run it through a charcoal filter, and they're paying less than a penny a gallon, and they're charging you 50 cents a gallon, and you bring your own container. Okay, so why is it that people buy bottled water? Not because of the cost, because it's expensive, but why do people buy water? You think it's better quality, okay. They said it's better than tap water. Okay. Anybody else? Nobody wants it. That's it. Okay. So in all reality, okay, I know this because I just retired from a local water district. There's more regulations put on tap water from your water district than there is on anything they do in the bottled water industry. Okay? And yeah, when they call it spring water and they call it mountain water, you realize it only has this much spring water and then the rest of it is mixed in, but they can call it spring water and charge you a lot more. Okay, there's a lot more testing that is done through tap water. I'm going to challenge you. Yes?
I'm curious about, if you answer, what about Fiji water? I've been told, and I don't know, I'm a board member, but I've been told that does it really come from Fiji? And it comes from some, sacred spring or something?
Yeah, I don't think, I don't know, but I would be very surprised if it does come from Fiji. Okay. Now, over the years that I've worked in the water district and the water agencies and done conservation, we've done taste tests. Have you seen the Pepsi and Coke test TV? We used to do big events and we'd do a water test. And we'd put out 5 different cups of four bottled water and then 1 tap water. Okay? And do you know that every year, I'm not saying that the tap water came out number 1, but they always came out number 2. Okay? And you tell me we're paying all this money. Okay, when really, go to your house today, get a glass pitcher, fill it up with tap water, put it in your refrigerator. Let it cool down, let it get cold. Okay? And take it out, pour yourself a glass of water, and tell me that that is not just as good or better than any bottled water is out there.
I have a question. There was a time when you poured the water, it would cloud up, and you had to wait for it to clear.
Uh-huh.
Is that
it could happen in some place. That's called turbidity. And it's just the movement of the water. It's coming so fast in the pipe that it creates, it's air pockets basically, right? Yeah, it's just air, bubbles, and then it just clears up because of the speed of the water and the movement of the water. That's nothing wrong with that water. It's just the way flush just, runs through the pipe so fast. Sometimes it'll do it in some areas, other areas it won't do it.
Far back memories in Vietnam where the water containers had copper, like red stuff, and it was floating in the
Yeah, exactly. So I'm originally from Mexico, but I was brought here when I was very young, which is a long time ago. But my parents, I can tell you this, my parents would never drink tap water. And that comes because in our country, we don't drink the tap water. That is true. Okay, so they would get mad at me. I started working for the water district, and I'd get to their house, and I'd go to the tap, and parents can do whatever they want. And we're the children, right? They'd yell at me, "What are you doing? That's bad water." And I'd say, "Wait, no, it's not." But to the day they went home, they never drank the tap water, which is really interesting. So I understand that, because yes, in some foreign countries, you can't drink the tap water. Yeah, but here, we can do that, okay? And so try it. How many of you are willing to try that? Put it in a glass container, chill it, and then try it. And I'm saving you money already, see? Okay, so why conservation? Remember, conservation is indoors. Yes?
Question, you got a whole house water filtration system.
Ah,
Tell me about, what do you think?
well, it just depends.
Yeah,
Okay, it depends. If it's an RO system, okay,
charcoal, no salt.
okay, if it's an RO system, they used to, under the sink, and those used to be, you dump 5 gallons to get one good one. Okay, so that was not saving water. Nowadays it's 1-to-1 actually. So, but it's still, you dump one and get one. You're still dumping water, but your system is probably a charcoal filter. Okay, or
With charcoal,
is it for soft water? Is it a soft water?
salt water and purification.
Okay, so soft water, as long as you don't have a salt one that you have to fill up, because those you always have to dump, but it's a brine that somebody brings a tank. Those are better, okay? Charcoal filter for drinking, you could put one on your faucet, and it does the same thing that you're getting from that big machine. It just looks good, and it's, what did this gentleman say? It's all marketing, right? It's all marketing, so why conservation water management? They're basically almost the same thing. Conservation is what you do inside your house, okay? All the faucets, all the toilets, and all, that's what we call hard savings. Because if you have a 5-gallon toilet and you install a 1.6-gallon one, automatically, time somebody flushes, you get savings. So those are hard savings. Water management is what we do outside, okay? We have to manage the water. Why? Because we live in a semi-arid desert, right? What we see and what we've developed in our home, some people, is not what nature really is around here. But we've done it because of our weather, because of the nice area that we live in, and because we have water. Okay, so we live here. Anybody know how many inches of rain on average we get? On a good, when it's supposed to rain, when it does rain? So it's probably somewhere between 9 through about 12 inches of water a year, roughly somewhere in there. Okay? How much have we got in the last 3 years? Probably less than 2, right? Okay, so therefore, there is dry, we do have a drought. Okay? It is our responsibility to use water efficiently. So here's the kicker. We're not telling you not to have it. We would never do that because that devalues the property. But we're asking you, whatever you have, water it, but only water it wisely and just what it needs, and we'll be fine. Okay? And then water is not an indefinite resource. I know I told you it's the same water, but it just depends on where it falls for that 1 year. Okay, during the year. So it may not, it's not indefinite for us, okay, here, because we don't get as much, so we have to be careful with it. And doing good water management reduces waste. The more you water, the more your plants grow. The more your grass grows, the more you have to trim, mow, and take it to the waste, place. Okay, if at any time you have a big job, do not take it to take it to a recycling place. Much, much better. They'll mulch it, they'll use it again, they'll recycle it, and that. So water-wise gardening benefits: it's water efficient, adapted to local conditions, low maintenance, and drought tolerant. Okay, there is no such thing as zero maintenance. Everything has maintenance. So if you have a nice landscape, okay, but you don't have a good irrigation system, you could lose your investment, okay, and you don't want to do that. The irrigation part of it is the forgotten part because most of the time it's buried. You don't see it. When does it water? Either a lot of people water at night, which I recommend you don't, okay, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. And then other people water early in the morning. However, we're not up yet, and we don't see it. All we see is the results of what we did, okay? And if you're like me, okay, the way we see things and look at things is, if it's green, I must be doing good, right? Okay? If you see something yellow, what do you think? Needs more water, right? We start seeing stress. We start seeing, yeah, now we got to fertilize, okay? Okay, but when you fertilize, you have to water anyways, or else you're going to burn your plant even more so. Okay, but remember, yellow doesn't always mean not enough water. It could, but it could also mean that you're drowning the plant and the plant is choking. Okay. How many of you ever killed a plant? Yeah. For whatever reason, they live until they get to my house, right? Okay, so we've all killed plants at some point, okay? And sometimes it is the plant that doesn't take off. I'll be honest with that. But most of the time, we kill more plants by overwatering than we ever will by underwatering. Okay? So principles of irrigation are these. Program your controller to replace water loss from soil and plants due to weather. That's that one big word that's called evapotranspiration. Okay? Evaporation and transpiration. So all we're doing is replacing what's lost. Okay? So basically, let me define irrigation as this. Irrigation is a controlled leak. Right? Because this valve opens up, it's leaking through here, and it's going somewhere, but we control where it goes and how much of it is actually, how it sprays, and how much of it is actually applied. So we're controlling what we're leaking out. Okay? But we have to, the thing about irrigation is we have to understand that the reason we water is to replace water loss. Okay? And water loss is due to a few things. The weather. Okay? Let's recap. What season are we in? Okay. Okay. But yet it's been 80-something, 90 degrees, right? Okay, but it's still fall, right? So what happens is we have to replace the water loss, it being fall. So what happens at fall? The days shorten. Have you seen outside about 6:30 nowadays? It's almost dark. Okay, so there isn't as much sunlight. Okay, so the plant So the evaporation is not as high. It's not, I know it's 80 degrees, but 80 degrees in the fall compared to 80 degrees in August, which we wish it was 80 degrees in August, okay? The evaporation is less, okay? And the solar radiation on those plants is a lot less also. It's not as strong. So all we have to do is replace what evaporates, and also the other part of it is the transpiration. In other words, of the water that we apply to the plant and to the roots, how much of that is being transpired by the plant through the roots, up its stem, and out of its leaves. See, so that's what keeps it going and what keeps the plant healthy. But there's loss there, and then we have to replace it. Okay, so never ever in any instance do we water every single day. Well, let me retract that a little bit. Unless you just planted. Okay? But if you've got established plants, do not water every single day, because you're not giving that plant enough time to use up what's there. And then now we're putting stuff on top, water on top of water that it never got lost. So now we're pushing water. Water is heavy, and we push it down further past the root zone, and once it goes past the root zone, it's over. Any questions? Anybody water every day? Anybody not want to confess? Yeah. Ah, very good. All right. Okay, I earned my keep. I earned my keep. Okay, so schedule it only to, put back what was lost. Schedule irrigation early in the morning. Why? I know you see commercial landscapes water at night. They have no other choice, because you don't want to go to the store and sprinklers are all on, okay, even in the morning or whatever. So they have a window, schools and all that, because you don't want the kids out in the middle of the field and then all of a sudden the sprinklers go on. You have to do it at night. Well, sometimes you do, but generally you don't. So you want to do it early in the morning. One of the reasons is you don't want your plant to be wet all the time. Okay? You don't go out with your hair wet, because you're going to catch a cold. How many were ever told that? I think we all did. Okay? And we used to laugh, and now we tell our kids that. Okay? But it's the same thing with the plant. The plant, the longer it stays wet, okay, the more susceptibility it has for disease. So the reason we want to do it early in the morning is we'll put water on the plant, only what it needs, let it saturate the ground, let it infiltrate. Then when the sun comes out, it dries up, or evaporates whatever it doesn't need, and then the plant stays dry the rest of the day, but the roots already. So that's where it lives. Okay, so that's the reason. Okay, water deeply, but infrequently, and adjust seasonally. Okay? We have to be very careful with this sentence, because, we can say, well, we have to water really deep, but we only have to water as deep as the roots are. And that depends on what type of plants you have. Okay? So trees, yes, a lot deeper because they have deeper roots. Grass, okay, has about, if it's fescue turf like we see all around, you want it to be green all year round, only has about 4 to 6 inches of roots. Okay, so if we water at 12 inches on the grass, we're spending 50% of the water for nothing. Okay, so it just depends. And then very, very clearly adjust seasonally. How many of you, I think I asked the last time, how many of you have irrigation controllers or timers? Who controls that? You do? Does anybody here have a gardener, a mow, blow, and go guy? Okay, I call them mow, blow, and go guy. Because that's what they do. They mow, they blow, and they go, right? Okay, so recommendation, never let your gardener control the timer. The reason is, if it's not green, he's going to say, let me just increase more watering. Okay, but it's not always that easy. Okay, make sure you know. How many of you adjust your controller during the seasons? How do you know how much to adjust it? Oh boy. Okay, if you're getting mushrooms in your grass, okay, take out your grass, plant rice, and make money. Okay? Well, mushrooms only grow when there's water standing. I mean, when it's flooded. Okay, so definitely you know, oh wow, I'm overwatering. Okay, because you start getting mushrooms. So you know you can cut back. Okay, right about now you can start cutting back on your watering. Okay, now don't go out there and cut it, 80% or something like that. No. So based on the weather, okay, and the season that it is, you can cut back from the 100% that you do in the summer. You can cut back probably to 80% for right now. Okay? But here's a plug for rebates. Okay? If you have a regular, standard, conventional controller, okay, that you're the or lady, okay, I recommend you go through the rebate program and get yourself one of the new technology controllers, which is called a weather-based irrigation controller. What those will do is it'll water, you set it to summer watering. When it becomes fall, it gets a signal. A lot of them are Wi-Fi, work through the Wi-Fi now. It'll send a signal and it'll automatically reduce the watering for you without you having to worry about it. Okay, and you can see it. Everybody has smartphones. Okay, you can actually run it from your phone, but you can see what it's doing. Okay, and there's all kinds of different varieties of controllers. Which ones are better than other? It's all a like and a dislike. Okay, but if they work with the weather, they will change. So it's 100% with summer. Then it'll reduce it during the fall. It'll reduce it some more during the winter. It'll increase it back up during the spring, and then finally go back to 100% during the summer on its own. Okay, so you have to tell it station number 1 is grass, station number 2 is planter, station number 3 is fruit trees, and it knows. That's why we call them smart controllers. Okay, but even though they're smart controllers, they're only as smart as the program. Okay, because it's the same thing with computers, right? The computer can do all kinds of things, but if I don't know how to do that on the computer, it doesn't do it. Okay, if you're like me, you call your oldest son, and I go, "Hey, it's not working." Okay, and he goes, "Dad, go to meeting." Okay, and then he goes, "Let me in," and then he controls my computer. Then he goes, "Okay, it's done." I'm like, "Good." Come by, Mom will feed you. Okay, but controllers are the same thing. Just get to know them. They're really good, and you won't be. Well, let me put it this way. Let me ask you this. What's the one season where we overuse water? How many of you say summer? How many of you say fall? How many of you say winter? And there's one left. How many of you say spring? Okay, so studies have been done, and we overuse water during the fall for the same reason that we're looking at it right now. It's been 89, 90 degrees, okay? So to us, it's really hot, so we keep that summer watering going, okay? What do you think the plants are doing? The plants know the seasons better than we do, and they're slowing down. Some of them are starting to turn color. Look at the crepe myrtles out there. The leaves are starting to turn colors. But yeah, we're still watering it because we think it's hot. So based on that, when do you think we underwater? There's only 4 choices, 3 choices now. Ah, very good, spring. Why? See now? Exactly, because what happens in the spring? The plants are starting to come back. They want to bloom. They want to, start growing again. They need some help. They need more water. But what do we think during the beginning of spring? It's still cold, right? Well, cold around Southern California is 50 degrees. we still have okay, so we don't water. And then as it gets hotter, then we try to catch up. Okay, and then we hit summer, and we're watering okay during the summer most of the time. Okay, so see, the weather-based controllers will help with all of this. Okay, group plants with similar water requirements. We talked about hydrozoning. Okay, so remember, most landscapes are overwatered by 30 to 300%. So where do you stand? How do you know how much water you're using? Anybody? Yes. So how many of you read your bills? How many of you read to pay this amount only? Because that's what most people do, right? That's what I do with my electric bill, and then I get a thing saying, you're using 60% more than your neighbors. I'm like, I don't care, I'm cool, okay? But water, you can figure out there. Look at a bill during the winter and see how many units of water you use. Every month per person is about 2 units of water, average, okay? So in the winter, your bill's lower as far as usage. And then look at the summer one. Anything after 2 units of water per person is going outside unless you have a water leak. Okay? And water leaks usually are your toilets. Okay? The flapper on your toilets is what it is. Okay? But that's one way to figure out, okay, how much water am I actually using? About 60% of your total water usage on average is outdoors. Okay? If you're using 2 units, that means you're not doing anything anywhere. Okay? But I just re-landscaped my front yard, no grass. Okay? And my units increased. Okay? And I'm keeping it that way because they're brand new plants. Once they get established, it'll cut way down. Okay? But it's still very important. So how many of you understand this diagram right here? This is your sprinkler system. This is what you don't see. So it starts at the water meter. Okay? And then this line right here goes to your house. But before that line goes to your house, you cut into it and you tee it off, and it goes to the sprinkler system. This backflow preventer, some new homes have them. All commercial properties have them. You don't need this for residential as long as you use anti-siphon valves, okay? So this line is always under pressure. Whatever pressure is coming through the meter, this is the main line that goes, and then it goes right to where the valves are, okay? So in this instance, here's the main line, okay? It's coming from the meter, it comes here, and it goes through these valves, okay? Nothing's happening, right? You don't see the sprinklers, you don't see anything until this valve opens up. Once it opens up, water runs through here, it goes that way, and then it goes on to your sprinkler system. This line right here is always under pressure. This is the main line. This line is your lateral line, and that'll be under pressure only when the sprinklers are going. Okay, there'll be water in there, but it's not under pressure. And whatever that pressure is, I don't know what the grid in the water district is totally different. So some areas have more pressure than others, okay? But that's what's coming through the valves. This valve can withstand probably 120 pounds pressure, but you don't want to run it like that, okay? It's like if you buy a new car and it says it could go 200 miles an hour. If you run it 200 miles an hour, every single day, first of all, you're not going to have a license anymore. And the second part is that engine is not meant to go 200 miles an hour all the time. It's going to break down. Same thing happens to irrigation valves. Okay? Any questions? Wow, you guys are smart. Okay, so we go to the valves, and then from each valve, you go to a certain area of your yard. One valve should have the same type of sprinklers in that whole area. You can't mix sprinkler types, okay? So this one right here, you see it's got pop-up sprays. This one over here goes this way. Now you've got rotors, okay? They may water the same, a grass area, but they're different types of sprinklers. And even though they may put out the same amount of water, but one's stationary and the other one is going side to side, so the minutes of watering differs. Okay? And all that is controlled by your irrigation timer that's right there. Okay? Whatever you tell that timer to do, or controller, okay, that's what's going to happen in here. If you tell it to water 10 minutes, it'll water 10 minutes. If you tell it to water 10 minutes every other day, it'll do that every third day, 3 times a week, 4, whatever the case may be, that's what's going to happen. Okay? And that's your sprinkler system in a nutshell. Okay? Here's the important part. This is basic hydraulics. Okay? There's 2 types. It's a pressure. Static pressure is the pressure in a charged line and is determined using a pressure gauge when water is not running through the system. So that's how we know how much water is in the main line. Okay? If you don't know how much water you have at your home, how much pressure you have in your home, the water district can tell you. Call them up and say, hey, what's the water pressure here? And some of you, like myself, when you'll see the water line coming into your house, usually by the garage or somewhere around there, and it has this bell-shaped piece of equipment, that's a pressure regulator, okay, which means you got way too much pressure. You don't want 120 pounds pressure in your house. So it regulates it there, it regulates it down. Now you got even pressure inside your house. Right? Does anybody ever, when you open the faucet and you close it real fast, hear a thump? Okay? Okay, that's called water hammer. Okay? What it does, it's like you and me running into a wall at full speed, and we're gonna bounce back. Okay, that's what the water's doing in the pipe. As soon as you shut it, it hits it, and then it bounces back, and that does a great job on your pipes, doesn't it? Now pretty soon you're gonna have leaks. Okay, the joints and all that, so that's what the pressure regulator is for. Same thing you can do in your irrigation system. If your sprinklers, when they pop up, they slam, pow, and then all of a sudden they start like hissing and whistling and spitting and sputtering, and finally you see this water coming through, okay? That's a lot of water pressure that needs to come through this little orifice, okay? And doing that so many times, that little orifice where it's supposed to only water 1.6 gallons per minute, because it's plastic, is going to open up. Now you got some at 2 gallons per minute. Now you got some at 1.8, whatever. So it's not even, and it's all due to pressure. Okay, so it's very important to understand what pressure is. Okay, dynamic pressure is the measurement of pressure in a line as water flows through the line. Okay, when there's little pressure gauges that you can have that you can put on the head of the sprinkler and know how much pressure is on that, at every head. Okay, most of these sprinklers will work best at around 20 to 25 pounds. Okay, the bigger ones, I didn't put it out, but going to these bigger ones, okay, If you put 15, 20 pounds on this, they won't even lift up. Okay? So it needs at least 25, 30 pounds just to lift up and start watering. Okay, so that's very, very important. However, if you use these type of sprinkler, you don't need as many because these water a larger, much larger area. Okay, but your pressure, that's where you have to start. How much pressure do I have? Anybody see misting? A lot of misting when your sprinklers are on. Okay, that means it's too much pressure. Okay, as the water comes through, okay, all of your water particles, okay, are now dissipating. Yeah, and now you got mist, and you're losing, you know, this is my number, probably 30% of what, yeah, okay. So now what do you have to do? Because you're losing that much, now you got to water longer to get that much water on the ground. So look at the pressure, okay? And here's something. If you start off, because a lot of people make this mistake, if you start, this is 3/4. So if you start off with 3/4, you can't change that and move it up down the line. You can't go to a 1-inch pipe or a 1.5-inch pipe. It doesn't work that way. You can make it go down to a 1/2 inch to maintain that pressure, but you know, there's only so much flow. You're going to run out of water at the end if you go from small to bigger pipe. Has anybody ever done that? Stretch a hose so far that even though it's on, it doesn't come out at the other end. Yeah, 'cause it happens with electricity also. Okay, depending on the size of the wire. So, if you have slopes, how many of you have slopes in your yard? Anybody? No? Oh, good. Oh, one. Okay, so if you're going uphill, okay, you're losing pressure. Okay? If you're going downhill, it increases by 0.433 psi per foot of elevation change. Okay? It decreases if you're going uphill by 0.433. So we say 0.5 pounds. Okay? For every foot of elevation you're going up, trying to push water up, you're losing some of that water pressure. Okay? So this is where you want the 100 pounds. So by the time you get there, it's, yeah, I know. Okay, but if you're going downhill, remember, water runs downhill fast, right? So you have to never run a lateral downhill. Okay, on a slope, lines should be running like this. Okay, otherwise you're going to have too much pressure, not enough pressure, so you run it, you know, parallel with the slope. And the second thing is, you don't hook up the bottom part of your slope with the middle or the top of your slope. Okay? Because the watering times are very, very different, because from the top you're watering, where does that water go eventually? It goes downhill. So that means the one at the bottom, you don't have to water as much. Okay, because you're already getting some of the residual from the top of the slope. No questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
And this is all interesting and everything, and you're explaining it nicely, but you're not expecting us to do this on our own. I mean, you got to hire somebody to install this stuff, right?
It's up to you. It's at the very least, if you do hire somebody, okay, you'll know if they know what they're talking about or not. Okay, that's the important thing. If they start telling you something that, like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, you know, I'm trying to teach you as good as I can, okay, but at least you have an idea what it should be like. Okay.
I have one other question.
Sure.
Yeah, we have a situation in our front yard. It's basically the old galvanized steel, and so we're talking about replacing it. How much should that cost to put in PCP with a smart system?
Okay, so
With a average size front yard, maybe 50 by 100.
depending on how many here's a rough figure. Depending on how many stations you have, okay, how many valves you have, if you're going to replace them all, brand new, usually, okay, it's probably $500 to $600 per station. Okay, that includes the material and the labor. Okay, roughly. Okay, but you're going to get a whole brand new system.
Well, that's to replace the pipe also.
Yes, do away with the, your steel pipe.
I don't mind if they leave a steel pipe in there, but just put a new pipe through the
PVC, and go whatever areas you have. Yes. Okay, roughly, and I'm talking just in rough figures. Okay, so you figure if you have 6 of them, 6 areas, 3,000. Okay, it could be less if one area is right here. It's not very. It just depends. We have to look at the whole.
Yeah, the controller right now is under the sidewalk. I mean, the grass is under the sidewalk, so they would have to go under the sidewalk to do it.
Yeah, and all that you have to take into consideration. You have to bore under sidewalks, under driveways, whatever the case may be. But it's usually if they've done it before, they've done it right, and they've put a bigger pipe, a drain pipe underneath the sidewalk, so you can just push pipe through there. Okay, I have done it where I've gone across 20-foot driveways underneath. Yeah. So, and then the controller, you can get a rebate on the controller. So, okay, but keep in mind, not everybody knows how to. A lot of people try to talk you out of weather-based controllers, and that's because they don't know how to use them. Okay, so find somebody that knows how to use those things. So here's all the main components of your system. Okay, water meter. Okay, you know where your water meter is at home? It's in the ground. It's not on the side of your house. That's your gas meter. Okay, it's in the ground. Okay, yeah, usually by the curb. It looks something like this. If you open it, clean out the cockroaches and the black widows and the crickets and all that. Okay, for all of you ladies. Okay, and it reads in cubic feet. Okay, every time around. Well, this is a bigger one, but your home meter usually one turnaround is 7.48 gallons. Okay, you get charged for every 100 turns that it makes. That's 100 cubic feet or 1 unit of water. Okay, so you figure it. I don't know how much you pay for water. Is it 3 something a unit? Anybody? See, nobody looks at their water. Say it's $3 a unit, right? Divide $3 by 748 gallons. How much are you paying per gallon? Not very much, are you? Okay? But it's very important. You need to see. This also will tell you if there's a leak on your property. Okay? Don't run any water on your property. Go out to your meter, clean it out, and stand there and stare at it. Your neighbors are going to think you lost it, but hey, sit there and stare at it for about 2 minutes. Okay? If in 2 minutes, sometimes, see this little dial right here, the black one? This could be right here sometimes, or it's right in the center. Nothing should move at all if there's no leaks. If that little, leak indicator or low flow indicator spins, even if it stops, and then a few seconds later spins again and stops, that means water's being pulled through that meter somewhere. Okay? If you've got a continual movement, you've got a continual leak somewhere. And so what you do then, you go to your house, you shut off the water for the inside of your house, come back, and the neighbors will really think you're good because you're doing it again. Okay? Look at it. If it stops moving, the leak is inside your house. If it continues moving, then have fun and start looking throughout your whole property, your yard. Okay? But if it stops inside your house, generally the culprit is going to be your toilets. Okay? The flapper didn't sit right, didn't seal, something. Yep. Sure. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, it can be in the center. Sometimes there's a little star right on the side of it. Just depends on what type of meter you. Okay. Do you guys have, Mary Jo, do you have AMI meters? You don't? Okay, when the district goes to AMI meter, that'll be a lot easier because they'll be able to see it hour by hour. Okay, where I worked, I worked just south of here, in Eastern Municipal Water District. I mean, you guys have a small district. I worked for a district that covered 550 square miles. Okay, we had 800,000 population and about 150,000 meters. They changed them all out to AMI. Somebody could call me in my office and I could check their account and see hour by hour what they're using. Okay? But the cool thing with that is that if there's continual usage about 72 hours, they'll get a notice and say, hey, there's something wrong at your house. And people will call and say, there's nothing wrong with my house. And I'll look at it and I say, well, you got 7.5 gallons for the last 24 hours. Okay, 7.5 gallons is usually what a toilet does. Okay, when it starts leaking. So that'll help. But in the meantime, you can do this on your water meter. Okay, maybe you won't know exactly how much, but at least you'll know if you have a leak. Okay, and then all these other things are just parts that you need. Okay, so there's your water meter. Okay, they forgot to show the crickets and the black widows. Okay. I kid you not, in the late 80s, early 90s, one of our meter readers, I was in Vista, there's a lot of country out there. One of our meter readers, without realizing, she opened the meter box, didn't see anything, put her hand in there, and a snake caught her right here. Okay, she pulled it out, the snake's still hanging. She put her arm out the window, and drove back to the yard, and said, look. Okay, it wasn't a venomous snake, but, you know, those are the fun parts of being a meter reader back then. Okay, now they drive by and look at it. And they do read it, okay? But do you know it's your responsibility to keep it clear so they can read it? Okay, otherwise they're going to say, well, they used this much last time, I can't read it now. So they're going to say they used this much this time too.
Don't most of them have electronic things like that?
Sometimes they do, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so irrigation supplies. So here's my recommendation. Pipes, even if you're not going to do it all yourself, but you want to do a repair, use Schedule 40 pipe. Okay? There's some other pipe called Class 200. Okay? Yeah, 125. Oh, boy. Okay. It'll work until you start digging, or it's a few years old, and you start digging and you accidentally hit the pipe with your shovel. Okay? Now you got a break. Okay? Schedule 40 is probably better. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's worth every penny. Yes. Anything that has to go underneath something, you don't want to put that flexible, very thin wall. What it is, it'll withstand the pressure, but it's the side wall that's not as thick as this. Class 200 is thinner. Class 125 even more so. But they used to use it way back then. Okay, use Class 200 pipe. And this is what I use this, okay? This is what I buy, Christie's Red Hot Blue, okay? And this will work with even though it's still a little bit wet with water, it'll still weld together, okay? This is a different type, but like I said, I buy this myself. Remember, it's not, let me see. Yeah, here you go. Glue and primer, more is not better, okay? Can clog the irrigation lines and nozzles. So when you glue something together, okay, after a while when it's dry and everything and you go to turn on, make sure you take off sprinkler heads that are close so it can flush all that extra, blue stuff out of there. Otherwise, you can clog sprinklers in that. Okay, and remember, more is not better. Okay, it's really not glue. It's a solvent. So what you're doing is you're putting just enough on each end. Here, you teach. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, you're just putting enough, a little bit here, a little bit here. You push it in, give it a quarter turn. What it does, that's why it's called weld on. It actually welds the two pieces together. If you put too much, it's not going to touch, so it can't weld anything. And when you got enough, at some point you're going to have way too much pressure, and it's just going to go like that. Okay? So be careful with that. Like I said, it's not that wood glue that the more we put on it, the better. Okay, twist pipe, remove excess glue with paper towel. Okay, that's what pants and sleeves are for. Okay. And all the time I've taught classes, I've only found one man that says every time I go out there, I take paper with me. Okay, he gets a prize because whatever's there. Exactly. Yeah, I have Dickies. They have different types of blue on them. Okay, because that's what I do. I just do this. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So there's different types of valves. These are called inline valves. Okay, but if you're going to have inline valves, you should have a backflow preventer so that water doesn't. So what happens is this: when water, if water runs downhill, so if this is a little bit lower than your last sprinkler, it'll run back, right? It'll come up here after it's turned off. Okay, it'll come back here, and this anti-siphon will drop it right there. It'll come out and it'll start dropping. So it stops it from going into the main line, which you don't want. Okay? These don't do that. These are just straight valves, so if water goes backwards, it just runs back into the main line. So for homeowners, this is what I recommend. Anti-siphon valves. They'll help you a whole lot. And also, one of the problems with these, like these lids, they're underground. They're inside the lid. People have a hard time finding them after a few years because they're covered with dirt. They don't remember where they are. Okay? And if you bought a house that had those already, the owner is not going to tell you where everything is, so it's hard to find a lot of times. Okay? So these anti-siphon ones are going to be above ground, at least 12 inches. Okay? And they just go to wherever. Look at this is a big property. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 valves. They go to different areas. So watering, efficient and not efficient watering. Okay? This is what we're trying to accomplish. Depth of the water goes to the depth of the roots, right? Not efficient means the depth of the water is twice as deep as the roots. This is grass, by the way, not pineapples. I know, but that's the best way they could do it. So here, we're watering 200%. Over here, we're watering just right. Okay? But remember, what did one of the slides say at the beginning? The average is overwatered by how much? 300%. Okay? So the key to watering anything is good uniformity. Full coverage, head-to-head spacing, spray from each head touches the next sprinkler over an entire area. That's what we want. Okay? That's expected. That's not reality, though. Okay? Because you can have the best sprinkler system, and I've seen it inside the manufacturers. They test the sprinklers for head-to-head, and they're great, but they're inside. You get out there, and you decide to put a boulder. Okay? That throws off your uniformity. However, you try, Anything, remember we said if you have a spray system and it runs about 60% efficient, that's a good system. 70 to 80 if you've got these rotor types, that's efficient. I've never seen one 100%, okay? Because we're not perfect, plus the wind, and you live too close to Fontana anyways, so you get wind all the time. Okay, so equal spacing of sprinklers. If you've got grass area, you got to have your sprinklers evenly spaced. Okay? Because we're human, we'll see, okay, we had a brown spot right there, so I'm just going to put another sprinkler right there. How many of you have ever done that? Come on, I know I'm not the only one. Okay? And it does take away the brown spot, but we've thrown out the distribution, okay? So here, very quickly, sprinkler spacing. After deciding sprinkler location, select the type of sprinkler. 15 foot or less, use spray heads. More than 15 feet, use rotor sprinklers or rotating nozzles. Rotor sprinkler examples. Here's a Hunter brand, okay, which are these. Okay, but Toro makes them, Rainbird makes these type. Okay, they're bigger. Okay, forget the PGJ. They did away with those. You got to change that slide. But you got the PG series. That's what these are called. This is called the PGP. Or I-20, they reach 25 to 45 feet. I-25, I-40, 45 to 65 feet. I-90s, now you're talking golf courses and football fields. Okay, so depending on the size where you want to go. Now, I did when my old house, put some grass in the front yard, and it was probably 20 feet by 25, 20, that size. I used 4 rotors, one on each corner, and it stayed beautiful, okay? Where I could have used these, and every 12 to 15 feet, I have a sprinkler. So if you have room for these larger areas, less maintenance, less problems with them. They're not going to break as much. Where these, you start, the more you have, the more problems you can actually, cause also or have. Okay, so here's how you design your sprinkler system. If you have your corners, okay, you start out at the corners all the time. I know that's contrary to what we think. Because where do we want to start usually? In the middle, right? Yeah. Let me put one in the center and then I'll move out. No, it doesn't work. Okay, you start in the corners. Okay, work from the corners inwards. Add heads as needed. Maintain head-to-head coverage and equal spacing. Doesn't matter. If it's 20 feet, if it's 60 feet, you always start at the corners. Okay? And this is easy because it just got a square. Okay, so if you had, nobody has squares anymore, right? Because of something called feng shui, right? You want it to flow and, feel good. So everybody has round, kidney-shaped grass areas. Even though you have that, you still have to find, okay, if this was a rectangle, where's the corners? So you get the closest spots and you start with those 4 corners and then you work yourself in the same exact way. Doesn't matter. Square, rectangle, circle, kidney shape, you have to find, the corners and start from there if you want efficient watering. And it depends. I mean, here's all the types of sprinklers. Okay, overhead sprinklers is used for turf, mixed use, ground covers, intensely landscaped areas. And remember, it measures water in gallons per minute. Okay, drip, this is considered the most efficient because drip irrigation goes directly to the root zone. Okay, we're not trying to wash the plant. We're not trying to do that. Okay, we're trying to get water to the roots. Okay, so drip systems creates a lot of good things. Okay, so here's overhead sprinklers, rotors, impact, spray heads, shrubs, stream rotors, different types of nozzles or bubblers. Okay. Rotor sprinklers, these bigger ones, good for larger areas. See, you're talking 20, 25 feet, but yet they're covering each other. Turf, planters, or slopes, variety of nozzles available. Okay. Just don't mix the types of nozzles, because when you buy this, you get this little thing of nozzles. Some are 2s, 3s, 4, 5. If you start with 2s, see if it works good. Okay, but don't start mixing a 2 and a 3, because what that means is how much water comes out of that nozzle. Okay, I did a sprinkler system for a friend of mine one time, a long time ago, and then he calls me back. He goes, "Hey, I'm not getting enough water now." And I'm like, "How can you not get enough water? It was good." He goes, "I don't know." So everybody lies. So I go over there and I turn it on, and sure enough, one of them's spraying good. The next one's like a dead duck. Okay? And I started looking, and he's got different nozzles on. I said, "I thought you didn't do anything." "Oh, yeah." He says, "See, I forgot." Yeah, I said, "You can't do that, because now you're trying to disperse different amounts of water, and the pressure is not going to work on that, and that flow's not going to be." So keep it at the same nozzle, okay? And as long as you got the pressure, you'll be okay. Okay, stream rotors. Okay, so stream rotors are, I can show you them a little bit, but are sprinkler nozzles that will replace a regular spray head, okay? And it converts it into something spraying like that. Now you got little fingers going side to side, okay? But you get better coverage. You just have to increase the number of minutes. However, if you're going to change one nozzle, you have to change all the nozzles under the same valve. Okay, these are water savers. Okay, they only put out maybe 2/3 of the water that a regular spray head does. Plus they're moving from side to side. And there is rebates for those too. Okay, and then your regular spray. Okay, very high precipitation rate, and it's all in one area. Rotating here's the rotate. These are Hunter brand. These are Rainbird brand. There's a Toro brand. It just, depending on what it is that you have in your, that you want to buy. Okay, 30% less flow minimizes runoff, because you're not hitting one specific spot for 10 minutes. In 15 minutes, you're doing this. So it gives the water enough time to, instead of flood, okay, you won't have as much runoff. And then this is something a little bit different. This is a precision nozzle, where it is a spray nozzle that you replace your conventional ones, but because they have something called the H2O chip, this right here, okay, with the naked eye you can't see it. It looks like it's just spraying. But because of this chip, what the water does under a black light, as the water comes out, it's not just going, it's actually doing this, oscillating. Okay, so the droplets are bigger, so therefore it gives you better coverage, okay, and less water at the same time. Okay, 1/3 less flow, okay, and they all put out the same amount of water. This is matched precipitation. All of them are meant to put out the same amount of water at one time. Okay, but again, if you replace one nozzle on one line, you have to replace all of them, or otherwise it won't work. And drip systems are all kinds of different systems, all kinds of different emitters. However, they all run on gallons per hour. Okay, remember the other ones, gallons per minute. Drip, gallons per hour. Pressure, a regular system, if you have about 60 pounds running through the valve, you can probably run 60, 70 pounds, roughly 8 to 10 sprinklers off of one. Pop-up sprinklers, more if they're just regular risers. Okay, if they're just like this. Okay. A drip system, you got to get it down to about 30 pounds. Okay, 30 pounds, so it'll drip very slowly, and it doesn't blow out all the emitters. Yes,
Can you use the anti-siphon valves with the drip system?
yes.
Same one?
If you start from scratch, you can do this. Okay, you have to have a filter. You have to have a pressure regulator. So it runs through here, and then it regulates the pressure down to 30, excuse me. And then it goes to, from the PVC, you can do it, and then you convert it to drip line from there. Okay, that's if you're starting from scratch. Okay, I'll show you in a little bit if you already have sprays, but you want to convert it to a drip system, what you can do now. Okay, irrigation timers. Multiple types of manufacturers available, multiple start times, look for individual stations. Okay? This is very popular. Okay? They do sell them at Home Depot, believe it or not. Okay? This is a Hunter, and then this is a Toro one. Okay, Toro, two things. Sometimes they come with a weather sensor you put on the eaves of your house, where it hits where the sun hits most of the day. Okay, or they have the other ones, of course. All these now are web-based, and they'll hook up to your Wi-Fi. Okay, and you can do it from your phone. You can be watching the Raiders lose and control and win by doing your controller. Okay, sorry, but my son-in-law is a true Raider fan, and we go back and forth on Sundays. Okay, and right now he's not doing very much. He just says, "I know." Okay, but controllers, there's different varieties. It just depends on what you're comfortable with, but they all do basically the same thing. They work off of weather, and they help you guys take the guesswork out of it. Okay, so let's take a little break, about 10 minutes. Go finish off the sandwiches, the cookies, the water.
Left, if you guys need to use the restroom, there's one right when you come in to the left, and there's two on this side.
Property we have up north.
How we doing? Did you leave me a sandwich? I'm just kidding. Huh? Oh, cookies, all right. Just what I need before I go into hibernation here.
That was helpful, what you said about the sprinklers.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know they all had to be there.
Yes.
See, I didn't know that.
Well, that's good. That's why we're here, trying to help as much as we can. Okay, so everybody is back now. You can eat and listen, I guess. So the next thing is water capture. Okay, and then I'll get back to the sprinklers because that's what I want to finish off with. But water capture, like I said, is very, very important nowadays. Anybody here use rain barrels at their house? One person. That's a rain barrel. Yeah, anything that you catch water in is a rain barrel. Now, what you want to do is if you do catch water in a container, make sure it's completely covered. Otherwise, you know, mosquitoes know how to find that place. Okay? And at the same time, you don't want to keep it forever. So if you do keep it a little bit longer, you may want to put a little bit of Clorox in it. Okay, just to keep away the critters.
What would we do if there was, because we have an IBC container with water in it, and we were trying to collect it a while back, and it's already getting a little muddy. What would you recommend we do as far as that goes?
Put it on your plants now. and then when you do put clear water again, do put some, you know, yeah, some Clorox into it and stuff like that. Okay, so it doesn't, stagnant water goes bad. I mean, there's nothing to it. That's why it's called, we have something called the salton sea. It goes bad. It's too salty on its own. How, we don't know, but it does. Okay, so you want to save the water. Okay, excuse me. You want to capture it. This is very kind of fancy here. Okay, but you don't want to keep it there for a long time. When it's time to water, take a hose, guide it to wherever you want to water, and that's free watering. Okay, there's a lot of water that comes off everybody's roof. Okay, so at least capture some of it. You're never going to capture the whole thing unless, you know, you dig yourself a big hole in your yard and and bury a cistern. Okay, which you can. There is rebates for that, believe it or not. Okay, but that's a lot of work. But if you can capture some of it, it'll help you in your watering and that kind of thing. Okay, because in California, here out west, okay, it rains when we really don't need to water as much, unfortunately. Okay, however, we still do water during December. Maybe not as much, but we still do water, so why not use that that free water, right? Different types of rain barrels off of the the rain gutters, okay? And then it'll and do what it generally does. Okay, there's also money for rain barrels. Okay. Redirect downspouts. Okay, different ways of doing. Replace your downspouts. These are called rain chains. This is more for, you know, make it look pretty. Okay, so now you got your drain, you know, your gutters, and it goes in here, and it looks really nice, and it ends up in this dry riverbed. Okay, the dry riverbeds are not for water to be running fully, but it's a swale, so it captures the water, and then it slowly seeps back into the groundwater. Okay, but it's not running out into the street. Okay, this allows, contour your land to keep water on your property. This allows soils to become fully hydrated when it rains. Okay, so what it does, it actually feeds some of your plants. You got You got water there now for your plants, and you may not have to water as much. Okay, different types of dry riverbeds. It all depends on what you like. Okay, this is a little bit too rustic for me. Okay, but it does its job. Okay, you plant plants around it. See, but any water that runs off, even for sprinklers, this should be all drip. Okay, nevertheless, it goes into the contour. Okay, there's swales. When you do, you know, Mary Jo talked about turf removal. If you want to remove turf, and you have to convert the irrigation system to drip, and you do certain amount of plants, okay, one of the components, I know that the program for Metropolitan does, I'm sure here also, is that you got to have a swale, whether it's rock or whether it's just, you know, an indentation, but you got to have a swale so water will run into it. Swale, yeah. It's just a little indentation, a little pathway, basically. So if water runs off, it'll run into it, and it'll capture it, and then go from there. Yeah. Yeah, I guess a little valley, yeah, it doesn't have to be real deep, 4 to 6 inches, you know, and then you put rock if you want, and then paint it, it'll look really good. It can look really good, okay? You can do berms. See, here, of course, this used to be all grass, but then they converted it to synthetic turf. But nevertheless, water that runs off this concrete goes into that little planter right there. Okay? Water that runs off, this is a small little slope. It won't go into the street, see, because you've got now 2 feet of gravel. Okay, so you're capturing, and you're not allowing it to go down the street and pick up all of that pollution. Okay, and there's many ways. Commercial, what they're using now is a concrete. It's a permeable concrete that they pour it on parking lots, and when the water runs right through it, and it never runs off. Okay, if you've never seen it, it's pretty cool. You know, it doesn't look good for homes because it's not this smooth little thing. It's rough, but for parking lots, large areas like that, it works really, really well. The way they show it a lot of times is they'll pour it, then they'll bring a hose, turn it on full blast, and they're putting that hose on that concrete, and it's not going anywhere. As soon as it hits, it goes back down into the groundwater. Okay, and that's commercially what they're doing. You can do the same thing with, you know, interlocking pavers. Okay, because they got sand on the edges, and it won't run off just like concrete does. Okay, but it's just a lot of different types. This is a closer picture. See, they have plants and all. If it runs off, it just goes right into here, and it goes back into the ground. Swales. Okay, here's the way it's spelled. Swales help keep the water on site. The swale does not have to take up the whole yard. Yeah, don't make your yard, you know, real deep. Yes.
Do you have something underneath the rock so that weeds won't come through it?
You can have a weed barrier. Okay, just not plastic. Yeah, never use plastic anymore. Okay, back in the 70s, 60s, when they did all the mobile home parks, they all had plastic, and then they put the gravel on top of it. 2 things: it's way too hot, okay, and water just slides right off of it, so it doesn't help, okay, and it falls apart anyways, and the weeds are weeds get through anything anyway, so, okay, you've seen them in concrete driveways. Okay, so rebates available. We talked about that. Turf removal, sprinkler nozzle, weather-based irrigation controllers. We got tired of saying weather-based irrigation, so we call it a WBIC, W-B-I-C. okay? It's a WIBIC, so there's rebates. What is the rebate, Mary Jo?
I'm sorry, for turf removal?
For controllers?
I can get that for you right now.
Hey, $1 million question here. Okay, so WIBICs, you can pay lots of money, or you can pay $100.
And our rebate is $100.
Ah, there you go. So roughly 100, let's say 100, 150 is a good controller. Okay, you can get them at Home Depot, but if you want more variety, you go to an irrigation supply store. Okay, and they work great. They work great, and they'll do the job. Okay, so enough with the slides. So how many of you have ever had problems where something goes wrong with the valve? It leaks, it starts leaking, it's not turning on anymore with the controller. Okay, first thing first. Okay, if you're going to buy irrigation valves, buy valves that you can take apart. Okay, without having to cut them. Most of the first thing that'll go bad with the valve is this, what's called the solenoid. Okay, the solenoid is it's actual, in this whole valve, the solenoid's the only thing that's electrical. These two little wires. Okay, everything else is mechanical. So you want to buy valves that you can, if it's not the solenoid, the next thing that'll cause problems is inside right here, which is called the diaphragm. See, this one I can just do it by hand. Okay, so it could be here, and I could take it apart without having to worry about replacing the whole valve. If you're going to take it apart like I'm doing now, make sure you have the water off. Okay? Because wherever the solenoid is, that's under pressure. Okay? Believe you and me, I've done it. I've started taking things apart. Oops. And you get, if it's in the summer, it's okay. You get a free shower. In the winter, you would start running on, oh my goodness. Okay, but make sure the water is off. So you take it apart. And this is all it is, okay? This is called the diaphragm. It's a little rubber piece. So what happens to the diaphragms, sometimes there's debris in it, and it'll cut it. It'll slice it, a little rock or something. Once it cuts through, this won't be any good, and the valve will either stay on or stay off, one of the two. Okay, it could start leaking, it won't seal. Okay, and all this does is this, open or close. Okay, it just lifts or drops down, and it lets the water through. Okay.
Do they sell those individual parts?
If you have valves that you can take apart, you can buy a diaphragm, okay, or a solenoid. If you can't, it's easier and much. I'd rather buy a new valve, take the new parts off the valve, and put them on the other one that I already have instead of cutting and replacing the whole valve. Okay, sometimes it's cheaper just go out and buy a new valve and just take the parts and put it on the old valve. Okay, all it does. This is how valves work. Okay. Remember, this goes to the sprinklers. This is where the main line comes in. Okay, when it's shut off, there's no electricity to this. There's a little plunger inside of it, little steel piece that drops down. Okay, there's a little hole right in the center of where I take this off. Okay, and it drops and it covers this little hole right there. Okay. The reason it doesn't open is because there's water here, and then there's also water on top of the diaphragm. So it's a solid piece, so you can't open it, okay? So what it does, as soon as it turns on, soon as it turns on, you'll hear a click, and its magnetism, it lifts that plunger, and then it starts water. It allows water to seep out from the top of the diaphragm. Once it gets enough water, it's got air in there, then the pressure of the water lifts it up. Now you got water that can come through here. Okay? Once it turns off, that plunger drops, and now you got a solid piece. You got solid water on the bottom and solid water on the top. There's no air, there's nowhere to move, so it doesn't open. If you have a cracked diaphragm, that allows water to get through, so it starts leaking. Okay?
I got a question. For years I haven't put sprinklers in for a long time, but I used the brass ones because of the union that allowed you to just unloosen that and take it right off versus, having to cut lines.
Yeah,
and all
you
that.
can do that if you want.
Is there a union?
Yeah, you can do.
Those?
Yeah, you can do it like right here, right here. Okay, they're all plastic now.
Yeah, I haven't seen. I had to.
Compression. Okay,
Now, the manual operation of that one, the little screw, I see it on the one you in your hand. I see a manual screw
this.
for opening it up.
Okay, so this is a bleeder. Okay, you could turn it on manually by turning this counterclockwise, then you'll start seeing some water. It's doing the same thing that the plunger does here, but it's doing it manually. Okay, once you start opening this, eventually you'll hear a sucking, and then you'll hear the water running through. You like my sound? I make sounds now. Okay, same thing. If I have a solenoid like this, I don't like the spray get wet, so I just turn the solenoid a little bit. Turn a little bit, and then as it's lifting the whole solenoid, the water will start seeping out, and then water will work. So this, you can work this manually. Okay? So one way to do that and to know, okay, is it the solenoid? Because that's what usually goes. A lot of sun, something happens inside the solenoid, whatever. Go out and buy yourself a little cheap multimeter. Okay, I don't know how cheap they are now, but yeah, Harbor Freight, there you go. Yeah, yeah, buy yourself a little inexpensive multimeter, okay? And check the solenoid. If it's hooked up to any wires, unhook those other wires. You have two wires here. There is no positive and negative here. Doesn't matter. You got to put your multimeter on ohms, which is a little upside down horseshoe, and you got to get your reading glasses. Yeah, or somebody else. Okay, so you just go to ohms. Okay, turn it on, and don't worry, you're not going to get shocked. None of this. And remember, this is hooked up there. You just put one, touch the wire to each one of these, and it'll give you a reading. This one gives me a reading of 50 ohms. 50 ohms is a good solenoid. If you don't have a good solenoid, it'll just say 0. Okay, it's either 50 or nothing. Okay, that means the solenoid is good. Well, now you don't have to go buy a new part. Okay, now you can check the diaphragm. Okay, take off the diaphragm, put it up to the sun, fold it, whatever, see if there's anything wrong with it. A lot of times, it's just debris that got stuck in there. Turn on this valve very slowly, very, to get enough water to flush it out. Then put it back together, and you'll be fine. Okay, but you don't want these running all the time, because it'll be hard to figure out if it is running until you really get up close to it, and you can hear it. You can hear it going. Okay, another way to find out if it is going is you take off the anti-siphon part. Okay, if this thing is not leaking, you won't see water coming through here. If it's leaking, you'll see it. you'll hear it. Okay, sometimes these things crack. I've seen them crack, so you just, again, I'd rather buy a new valve and just take the cap and replace this one, and then you're set to go again. Okay. Controllers, here's one I had at home. I have all kinds of stuff that my wife's like, what are you doing? She thinks I'm a hoarder. Okay? But this is a controller, and don't be scared of it. It works fine. Okay? Always have it in the run position. But the wiring is here's where people get confused, okay? There's numbers here. Station 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever number of stations you have. And there's something called the COM, or the common. Okay? The common wire on an irrigation system is going to be the white wire, or should be the white wire all the time. So you take, I know this is a mess, but it's the best way I could do it. So you take your wire, you take one of, doesn't matter which one, and you go to a color. Okay? You take one from here and you go to a color, and then you take the other one and you hook it up to the white wire. Okay, this is the common wire. This is what completes the cycle. Okay, if you don't have a common wire hooked up, your valve's not going to work. Okay, so they're all hooked up. They should have, wire nuts, but just so you can see it. And the same thing here. The white one goes on the common, the COM, then the green and the blue, doesn't matter, station 1 or station 2, right? And the way you know if it works, on this one, okay, this one says just hit this. Did anybody hear that click? Okay, there's a click that happens, and you can feel it. You can feel it here, and then you would hear the water going. Okay? You want to do the next one? Okay, what happened? There's even a louder one. Okay, so this one's not working. That one stopped, but this one, and you can feel it. You can hear it. Okay? And it stops. Okay. The only thing is, what's good about this is, remember, 110 volts come to the controller. Okay, because it's plugged in at the wall. What the controller sends to the valves, okay, is only 24 to 26 volts. So it's not bad. Okay, you can check it. So let's say I turn it on. I can check it while it's running to see if it's got the 24 to 26. But make sure your multimeter is not on ohms when you do that. Okay, put it on volts. Okay. And put it on volts that are higher. You're expecting 20, 26. Okay, don't put it on 20. Okay, put it on 100 or 200, whatever the meter says. Then you can check it. Now, if you're really brave, you can grab them with your fingers. Okay, and you'll feel the 24 to 26 volts. Okay, just make sure you let them go. Okay, yeah, it'll be there. It's not going to hurt you, but make sure you're not standing in water either. But you'll know that there is 24 volts. That's all it is. It's low voltage from the controller to the valve. Okay? And what you want to do, when you do a set of valves, okay, one wire from each valve has to be hooked up to the common wire. If not, they're not going to work. Okay, that one valve will not work. Any questions? You're all good? If I ask you to come up here and do something, you know what you're doing? Okay, controllers, there's three basics of controllers. What day to water, how long to water, and which station to water. Okay? And which days, I'm sorry. Yeah. So on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I want station number so-and-so to water, okay, this number of minutes. Okay, so that's the the other things are the changing. If you don't have a weather-based controller, but your controller does have, you know, a percentage function, you can when fall comes, you can go there, okay, and then you can say, okay, now I want it. It's running 100% right now. Okay, I'm going to lower that. Okay, go minus. I'm going to only water 60%. So you're not changing the actual number on per station. You're only changing the percentage. So if it was 10 minutes, you change it down to 60%, it's only watering 6 minutes. Okay? And then as it gets colder, you want to lower it a little bit more, go to 30%. But then when it gets warmer, you start going until you get back up to the 100%, then you're good. Then you put it back to, always put it back to auto run. Okay? Otherwise it's not going to go through all the stations.
What brand is that?
This is a rain dial. Okay, it's Irrigation rain dial. These are really good. I recommend these. Okay, but you can't get these at Home Depot. You have to go to an irrigation supplier. But these are very easy, simple. Okay, if you're not really into all that fancy stuff. There's some with, it doesn't have a dial. There's nothing. You do it all on your phone. Okay, so whatever you feel comfortable with, it works. Okay, and these can't, the new ones for these are weather-based controllers. Okay, are weather-based irrigation controllers. So, so let's talk. Any other questions about that? How we doing? Y'all are going to help me at my next job? Okay, so this is really cool because somebody's going to take this kit home. Okay, somebody's going to win this. If I was you, I'd hope I win this. Okay, this is from Rainbird. It's a conversion kit from spray to drip. Okay, and it comes with everything. It comes with the, I put it over here because, not that I don't trust anybody, but, but I know. Okay, it comes with one of these. Okay, this I showed you a picture a couple weeks ago. This is an 1800 spray to drip conversion nozzle, sprinkler head. It comes with 100 feet of blank pipe and 100 feet of drip, of pipe like this that has emitters every 12 inches. Okay, and it gives you an idea. If you don't know, if you win it and you want to do it, okay, I recommend you go on Rainbird's website. It'll give you, there's videos there of what to do with that. Okay, it's not super difficult. However, okay, this is the way it works. So say you have your planter. All you see is a riser, right? And you see a little head here that sprays. You want to convert it to drip. Okay? First thing you do, you take off that nozzle. Okay? If you want to have this buried, you can use a smaller riser, and you do this. You put this down. Okay? And depending if you want to go one way or both ways, here's a T and here's an elbow. So let's say I want to do it in the corner and I want to go that way. So then you just thread this on here. Okay, make sure it gets threaded. And what you do is you get pipe. Okay, I'm just going to cut a piece. You get a piece of pipe, and this is a really handy little tool. And I think there's one inside that kit. What it does, it widens the entryway. Okay. Of course, this will be longer because you want to have it as long as you. And you just do this. Nope. There's no way you're going to pull this out. Okay, so this drip line on yours, because it is a planter, will have the emitters every 12 inches. Okay, the rest of the sprinklers, you take off the nozzle and you put a cap on them. You don't need them anymore. So now you just run this along the ground of wherever your plants are. You can go one way and then turn around and come back behind them if you want. Okay? Now you just converted a whole planter to drip. You never touch that. This reduces the pressure automatically down to 30 pounds or so. Okay? And it's very, very simple. This can go along. Okay? And I'll show you what it has inside. See, here's the pressure regulator. And then it's got a filter. Okay? And the filter is for all debris, anything that it doesn't clog up your emitters. Well, every once in a while, yeah, it's not a bad idea. Come on. Get in. There you go. Okay? So that's the way you convert it. Simple enough, right? Until you open the package and go. But no, just follow the instructions. It's very simple. And you don't have to tear out it. You don't have to start. If you start from scratch, this is the best way to do it. Okay? Go down to, and reduce the pressure there. Okay? If you're doing a system, okay, here's what I did. For my whole front yard, I took one valve, never put a regulator or a filter. I went like this. Okay? I took it and I went to where I want it to go. And where I wanted it to go, the PVC came in, I put a little right, and I put one of these. Okay? It does it for me already. It's already built. And then from here, I ran all my drip lines. From one drip line, I'm watering 40 plants in my front yard and one tree. Okay, now the tree, I'm watering with more gallons per hour emitters. Okay, these come in half a gallon per hour emitters. Then they come in 0.9 gallons per hour. Yeah, you can do it on the same one. Okay, because if it's half an hour, it's only putting out 0.5 for the plants, but it's putting down 0.9 for the tree. Okay, and the way you can do it different ways. You can go, yeah, you can go. Here's the way I did it. I used all solid pipe. Okay? And then off of the solid pipe, I came out and then I did a circle around each plant. Okay, so I don't have water going every 12 inches because the plants are 3 foot apart, 3 or 4 foot apart, so I'm just watering the plant. If I had ground cover, yes, I would use that 12 inches, okay? Because I did my whole front yard. But what you do is you get, and you can make a circle out of this. Okay, so let's see. depending on the size of the plant. And I don't know if there may be a tool like this in there. Yeah. And you take it, these are all specialties for that. And this pipe works better when it's a little warm. Okay? Yeah, leave it in the sun for a little bit. See, because it's so cold. Okay, so usually it'll go all the way in, but see, this one did go all the way. This one's okay. So I got it all the way in. So this is what you do, and you can move this like this. Okay, so say you got a plant here. Okay, don't build your circle before you got the plant. Okay? Well, you can, but then you gotta go over it. Okay, so here's my solid line. I go another little piece of solid line, and I tee it off right here also. So now a mold. So you do this. So you get a tee here, go this way, and now the emitters are only right here, okay? And it's watering the plant, okay?
So you have to have a emitter for each one of these stations?
No, you have pipe that has the emitters already in it. I'll show you. Well, another circle. Every plant has a circle around it. Okay. See these emitters right here? Little holes? They're already built in. 12 inches apart. So the slides showed you where you got a little quarter inch and then you got a dripper. You can do that, but you're going to have a lot more maintenance. Okay, those clog up a lot more. Also, this has something special in here, some copper or whatever, that it doesn't let the roots intrude. Okay, and this circle right here would be with this. Okay, yeah.
So maybe I was saying the wrong word. Is that solid piece? Was that a controller or what was that solid piece?
This right here?
This is one he's talking about that allow this.
Yeah, I'm talking about
This one?
This?
yeah, the thing at the end. Yeah, that thing. What do you call that?
This is just it's called a Rainbird 1800 spray to drip conversion. Yeah. Okay.
You have one for maybe a certain number of plants, then you have another one.
Yeah, it's an 1800 retro is what it is. Yeah, so you have one for one planter. Then you have another planter on the other side of the house. You need another one of these.
That's what I was talking
Yeah.
You got, what, 40 on your one?
Yeah.
He's got 40 on.
Yeah, I have 40 because it's very little water. Yeah. Yeah, so depending, I mean, if it's just one planter, yes, you need one. If you got, like I said, if you have a planter on the other side, then you need another one of these, and it'll work. But if it's one big, huge area, you can just do it with one. Okay?
So how long in your yard, how long do you run it?
Okay, so I'm running it 20 minutes at 5 in the morning and 20 minutes at 8 o'clock at night. Again, I know I said don't water at night, but I'm not spraying, see? The plant's not staying wet. I'm going right at the root. Okay, and in August, smart me, right? But I was told she wanted a front yard, so July of this year, I did it, and it was so hot, okay? But because it's all drip, and everything is flourishing. There was 3 plants that didn't make it. I blame it, those were bad plants coming from the nursery, okay? But I replaced them, and everything is blooming, everything's 40 minutes of drip irrigation, and my usage went from 3 units of water That's how much my wife and I use a month to 7. So 4 units of water. So for $12 a month, I'm watering my whole front yard. Not bad. And I'm getting ready to cut it back now. No, I'm doing 30 now. 30 and 30. I'm ready. Because of the weather, even though they're still kind of new, I'm cutting it back to 20. Honestly, I don't fertilize, to be very, very honest with you. You can. My recommendation, use an all-purpose fertilizer. Use an all-purpose fertilizer on your plants, but make sure you water it in. Your what? Your lawn, same thing. All-purpose fertilizer. You can use all-purpose fertilizer on everything in your yard.
Is that basically a chemical fertilizer?
Yes. Yes. Most fertilizers are chemicals if you buy them in the bags. You know, some of them are, you know.
Why do they still use manure? I don't
I don't
understand.
either, because yeah, it's a smell, it's the heat, and it doesn't last long. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of, nitrogen, but it doesn't last long. Okay? So, what do you think? Easy? Okay. Anybody want to try doing a circle?
Do you ever use soaker type?
Soakers are okay. Okay, but they're very flimsy. I mean, and you're watering everywhere that soaker is. Okay, instead of individual plants. Okay, if you don't have ground cover, do watering for individual plants. You avoid weeds. You avoid a lot of different runoff problems, mud, that kind of stuff. Okay, so you're better off doing just individual plants. Yeah, for ground cover, a couple things. If it's a flat ground cover, you can use drip, but I wouldn't use, unless you can fit it underneath the ground cover, which is very hard, okay, I would use micro sprays. So, now you're making me take out all my stuff that I didn't unpack. Okay, so you can see I hate doing this. What happened? Okay, so there's a couple ways. You can buy little things like this, okay, that'll spray, a half spray, a quarter spray. This happens to spray a full 3 circuit, but it sprays. But it's still in the drip because it's gallons per hour, okay? So in this, I would use the solid and use a little bit of 1/4 inch and stick it up. There's taller ones. And let it spray the ground cover. Yeah, because ground cover is not going to use very much water. It's very, most of them are kin to succulents. So, so they're not going to use a lot of water, so you can do it with micro spray. Okay, the other way to do it, if you want, okay, is if you have a regular spray system on your ground cover, okay, and it's not very big area, you can change the heads, but you'll have to buy a little adapter for the riser. So this will fit on it. Okay? And this is called the Zeri Pro. Okay? What it does, it sprays like a half, but it's very fine spray. And you're not converting anything except that one nozzle right there. Okay? And then you can even do it on planters if you want, without using the drip line. Okay, but it's not. Yeah, I don't have any. All this just converts it to drip irrigation. Yeah, I don't have one. Okay, very fine spray, but these work great. Again, you have to go to an irrigation supply place to see to buy these. Okay, you can do it in individual plants if you want also, if you don't want to use the drip line. Somehow it's, yeah. And they're actual, let me see the one more time. You can actually change it, see? Got a couple little, how far it sprays a little bit. Okay. But they're very, very nice. And you just, because they spray very, very fine spray. What else? Any specific questions that somebody might have? Are you, go ahead.
Just something to add to your one of your comments. Take a back step. You mentioned something about grabbing onto electrical wires to see you can feel it. I personally, as an electrician, don't recommend grabbing any electrical.
No, I know. No, I didn't say. I'm not. Yeah, don't take it as a must. I'm just. It was more of a joke, okay? Yeah.
As a joke or not,
Yeah.
people can take that seriously.
Yeah. No. I apologize.
Yeah, so no, I'd recommend. They
Yeah.
do sell little voltage testers that look like a pin.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
That I would recommend go buy one of those instead.
Yeah, multimeter or that. The multimeters, if you want to check ohms and AC, whichever. That just tells you if there's electricity there. But whatever works, yeah.
But you never know something.
I'm sorry. I know, no, it's not okay. I revert and I apologize. Yeah. Okay, so.
One other question.
Oh, sure.
I'm just curious. You had mentioned that you had gone under a driveway. How does that work? Do you have like a
It depends on who did the work prior to you. If somebody did work prior to you, a lot of times what we do, we'll put in a drain pipe, a 3-inch drain pipe underneath before they pour the concrete. And then you can slide pipe from one area to the. If not, you can bore through there with pressure.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've used a water ram, use a 3/4 inch.
Uh-huh.
So you take the hose and put it to the end of that, cut a hose on the opposite side, and start ramming it. When I get that part through, I connect another piece and continue until I get all the way across. And I've done sidewalks, driveways, and it takes a little time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, it takes some work, but you can do it. Okay, you hope that whoever did it before you did it right. But okay, so let's say, let's say you don't have the drip conversion. You can go put this together at Home Depot also. Okay, this just goes on the riser. Okay, then you got a little pressure regulator right here, and then it goes to the pipe. Then you can insert the pipe in here. Okay, just more pieces. To me, it's a lot easier what they did with the drip conversion. Okay, it's much cleaner. It's got a filter. These have filters in here too, but yeah. So either way, same process, but this gives you a little bit bigger filter rather than this. These can clog a whole lot, but they do work. Okay. The kits, I don't know if they sell them complete at irrigation supply places or whatever. They do sell this though. They sell this, and then they'll sell rolls of pipe, of the tubing. Okay. Yes.
My question with hard water, how
That's hard to say. That's hard to say. I mean, it all, a lot of times when they come and you don't flush the water out, you don't flush them. Yeah, I mean, every 6 months to a year, okay? But you should still check your emitters, make sure that it's getting water to every plant, okay? Yep. I mean, our water is hard water, so therefore it has a lot more calcium in it, okay? And even your water heaters, it's not a bad idea to flush them every once in a while, okay? Because I've seen people bring me little sandwich bags with white chalk pieces. Exactly, and it'll eat it up. It'll eat up the inside of the water here.
The circles you put around the tree,
Yeah.
you put them underneath the wall?
Okay, so what? Yeah, so what I do, I put this down. I put the weed barrier, and then I put mulch on top of it. Okay, because if you ever need to work on it, that weed barrier, move the mulch, lift up the weed barrier. The weed barrier is just a cloth. It's a special cloth. You can buy them in rolls. Okay, but again, it's a cloth. It's not plastic because plastic won't let water seep through it. Again, it's a likes and a dislike. However, rock is going to be hot. It'll create heat.
Have you used the rubber, the rubber that's been remanufactured from
I would not recommend rubber at all. Okay, as much as they say that it won't hurt anything, it still has problem. I think it creates more problems than anything, and it's very expensive. So, I mean, mulch, depending on, people say, I don't want mulch because I have to replace it every year and a half. Okay, but it's good for the soil. Yeah, it breaks the soil, which feeds itself. Okay, and if you want one year to have this color, next year in mulch very easily. Okay, the rock, it can get expensive, but to me it's more the heat. Okay, you create more heat around your plants and that kind of stuff. You have to have a swale, so my swale that I have at my house is on the perimeter. Okay, by the sidewalk. I don't have plants there. Okay, so that heat doesn't affect it. Okay, but I mean, I'm a mulch guy. I'm not so much a rock guy. I've done them. I've done a lot of swales. I've done a lot of dry riverbeds and stuff like that, but that's because you have to have it. But would I put plants and then rock around all of the plants? Nah. I mean, but that's my like and dislike. If you pay me, I'll do whatever you want to do. Okay, because I'm not going to live there, right? Okay, but for the environment and that, I would say mulch is a better way to go. Okay. Unless you live in Fontana and it blows away after 24 hours.
If you have an area where you water by hand a certain plant, so we don't need that sprinkler right there because it's just dirt, probably put mulch down. Can we just top off that sprinkler?
Yes.
Or is it gonna affect the whole thing?
No. By itself. Okay, half-inch cap threaded, take off the nozzle and thread it on, and you don't need that one. Why do you water by hand? I'm curious.
Because where the sprinkler's at doesn't reach that one plant. The sprinkler head was too over it. It just, my sprinkler system. That's why we're here.
Okay, so
I have, another thing is, where you have the controllers, and then there's that
You mean you lower the volume?
No, not on the sprinkler, but the whole, that whole level, that lever that shuts off.
Oh, you don't open it up all the way.
No,
Yeah, that's fine.
that's fine.
I mean, it's fine to a certain extent, but volume, you're losing some volume. Are all your sprinklers like that? Every one of them? Yeah, but not just one valve, but all of them, all valves. How many valves? How many of these do you have? Two. So both of them do that?
All the middle sprinklers,
Yeah,
they turn on? Yes,
all of them. So all of them from both of these valves.
yes, so that's why
Okay.
I turn the knob.
I mean, that's one way to do it. I would lower the pressure using a inline pressure regulator. Then you can turn on the valve all the way, but it'll just reduce the pressure that goes to your sprinklers.
But
Okay.
the valve, if I don't turn it on all the way, is it hurting my pipes?
No,
Pressure?
no, it's just not giving you as much flow is what it is.
Exactly.
Okay, but if it works,
Yes.
okay.
Because before I would turn them on and the wind would take all the water.
Yeah,
So,
so by doing that, it reduces and now, good job.
just wanted to know if it was.
No,
down
that's okay.
right. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mine is off topic, so about conservation, water conservation is what I want to know. And I've got a pool. Every 5 years, you probably should change the water. Reverse osmosis, you can clean the water and put it back in there. But do you know if there's any calculations to show, am I saving doing the cost-wise reverse osmosis versus dumping it and refilling it? You know,
Your reverse osmosis, depending on,
it's probably $900.
yeah, so your reverse, depending on how old or how new your system is. Reverse osmosis, the old systems, like I said, for every 5 gallons that you throw down the drain.
No, I'm talking about swimming pool.
Oh,
I'm
this,
changing the swimming pool water.
okay.
1,000 gallons.
Why?
Because it's been in there so long. You know, I mean, they recommend 5 years. Mine has been there much longer.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you don't, after a while, the algae buildup will. So you need to change it. I don't care how much chlorine, how much you put in there. You have
The
to
pH level doesn't,
another. You got
okay, well, that's
Yeah,
okay.
so, but I'm just trying to see if there's any calculations that you know of, whether it's the reverse osmosis truck will show up just like a water treatment plant, run the stuff through there, and put it right back in there. So I'm saving and not pulling another 10,000 out of the tap,
Uh-huh.
putting it in there, versus just recycling what I already have in there, saving. You know, I'm thinking
I
about.
mean, conservation-wise, water man, if you take it out and they clean it, put it back,
I'm saving, but I'm just sure that.
yeah, but it's now it comes down to a
Whether I'm
financial.
I'm just trying to figure out if I'm saving anything. Will I spend $900 if I dump it in the street and put, turn the tap?
Yeah, I
on
mean,
and
whatever, 20,000 gallons of water,
Yeah.
divide that by 748 gallons, that's how many units
Okay.
of water you're going to use, which is probably like 30 units. So 30 units times $3, roughly. I mean, how much water? Huh?
Should you,
I don't know how much you paid for it to clean it up and put it back. I have no idea. That's why I don't have a pool, because I'm.
should you drain your water into the pool, or what should you do with the water? I mean, into the grass?
No. You can't use your pool water to water your plants. Yeah, it's got too many chemicals in it already. So you have to call the water district and say, I'm not wasting water. It's not runoff. I'm emptying my pool because I have to do this.
Oh, so you just drain it into the street? The gutter?
They reclaim it.
Yep. Did I miss anything? Well, sure.
We have an area that, a tree was removed, and rather large tree, and it's just off the driveway and off of the lawn. And trying to consider what plant to put there because it doesn't get very much water over there.
It doesn't get water because there's no sprinkler system there?
Sprinklers in it
Ah.
or anything, and that'll be a while.
Then you want to plant something that's very low water that you can hand water.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want cactus.
Oh, no. Cactus, and cactus get a bad name, okay? Because we think of cactus that everything's spiny, everything's got, there's all kinds of different types, okay? But it doesn't have to be, a cactus per se. There's plants that are very low water use. You can do some natives in that area, for that matter, because they're not going to use as much water once they're established. You have to get them established, for about a year, and then you can almost water once every 2 weeks, once every month.
So is that plant there that's on the edge of the table, is that a type that takes sun?
Well, these are all succulents. Yeah. So any succulent like this, you can hand water for a while until it gets established, and then it's, every once in a while only. Okay. So, was your tree was the stump ground? Did they grind the stump?
No,
So the stump's still there.
no.
Well,
They
you
ground
can't
it.
see it.
Yeah, they ground it down below the surface level, but they didn't use the machine to grind it.
Oh, they didn't.
They waxed and hacked.
Wow. I know. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I was really upset.
For $50, you can go out and run them.
I'd be impressed.
And they said they grind it 8 inches below.
But it hasn't come back, huh?
Oh, no. The tree, it was a pine tree, so it didn't come back.
Oh, that's why they didn't. You still got roots
Oh, yeah.
all over the place.
We've taken a lot of it.
Yeah. So,
The old
okay. Yeah. So you have to find areas around it now to plant. But yeah, succulents you can do, and water them by hand if there's no watering there. That's it. We did it. Thank you. Yeah, please fill out the evaluation.
Thank you, Juan. We really appreciate your time. We can do the raffle now, if you would be so gracious.
Oh, that's right.
Winners.
That's right. Who gets the?
Like he pointed out, we do have some water efficient plants. We have some conservation boxes, some WWD swag, and even the spray to drip irrigation conversion kit.
Remember I gave you $20.
I didn't hear that. No one else did either. Okay, we'll start with one of the plants.
Okay. So with the last three numbers, okay? 672. There you go.
Oh, I'm gonna have you come up here, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna take some photos for our social media. Please hold and give my phone.
Yes, come on. I got to check that ticket because you never know. I'm just kidding. So she's getting her phone.
Oh, okay.
So you get to be on their website.
We have a few of these at home. They're my husband's favorite plants.
Yeah, these are nice.
They're really nice.
Echeveria.
When they die, that's because you overwater them.
Yep.
What's the name on that one?
Echeveria.
Spell it in English.
Echeveria.
Yeah. You're very nice.